Well, hello again, and welcome to another episode of the Hyperion Adventures podcast. I'm Tom. As always, I'm here with my wonderful, beautiful Disney, Star Wars, Marvel-loving wife, Michelle.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, honey.
So good to have you with us. We are recording this episode on Sunday, April 14th, 2019. It's been another exciting week in Star Wars, in Disney. It's been a crazy week. This is going to be a crazy episode.
Oh, we're looking forward to it, though. A lot of great things to talk about. And, oh my gosh, like you said, I mean, just electricity in the air.
Oh, so much stuff. This episode, I hope I can keep it under 2 hours. It's a crazy episode.
That's the challenge.
Oh, that is
it's
real
on.
challenge.
It is
Boy.
on.
I thought when I saw the news coming out this week, at first I'm like, this is going to be a 3-hour podcast. But no, I promise we're not going to do that. I'm going to try and keep it to around an hour 45, an hour 30. We'll see. But I'm not going to be 2 hours for sure. Thank you for joining us today. In the future, you can find us most anywhere you get podcasts. By the way, some interesting things happened this week through no fault of our own. We kind of had to make it a quick emergency move of our podcast to a different server. It's on a not temporary, but a different site. We kind of reverted back to SoundCloud for now. We're hoping to secure a more permanent home for it again coming up this week. So I apologize if anything happened out there where I saw one time you just have 30 new episodes of the Hyperion Adventures podcast. I mean, it was just kind of some weird things when we were moving it. We'll probably move it one more time, but hopefully there won't be a hiccup out there for you. You should be able to find us always on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and of course we also have a website, HyperionAdventuresPodcast.com.
Right. And so we do really appreciate anything that you can share with us in terms of how you like this podcast. What would you suggest some different things, or if you want to share some things that we would, give out there on the podcast and give you full credit, please reach out to us.
Right. And if you do see a bump in this for some reason, you're not getting it on your normal place where you get the podcast, please let us know, because we just need to get that corrected as we move forward here. We want to make sure that it goes as seamlessly as possible, because we love all you Hyperion adventurers and we want it to be as smooth as it possibly can be getting this podcast. And by the way, you've been giving us a lot of love recently. Speaking of a lot of love, we got really, really wonderful message. Big shout out to Part of Our World podcast. You can find them on Twitter at POOW podcast. They just sent us the sweetest note on Twitter about our episode 2 episodes ago, the 5 favorite Disney songs that made us cry episode. And it was just so sweet what they said about that.
It sure was. And thank you very much. I have to admit, when I read that, I started to cry. It's oh my gosh. It was so amazing. We really appreciate that feedback. And we got some other tweets. Disney DNA, they sent some really sweet regards to us. So thank you, everybody. We're glad that people responded to that show and that it did touch people as much as us. And so thank you for letting us know that.
Right. And both those podcasts, as well as many others that we touch base with on Twitter and everything, you should listen to them. Part of Our World podcast, they're great. Disney DNA podcast, they're great. We just did a piece, actually we recorded it last week, it's going to be on the Disney Discussions podcast. That didn't deal with Star Wars. Right. You'll want to check that out too. With so many more podcasts out there, Disflix Tidbits, there's so many of the great ones that are kind of part of our Disney podcast family. Of course, our good friend Rob LeBerry, and if you're more of a Star Wars fan, or if you're a Disney and Star Wars fan, just like he is, Jedi Temple Archives podcast, check them all out too. They're all great shows.
Yes.
And we have a lot of fun on Twitter, and you can find us on Twitter at Hyperion Podcast, Facebook and Instagram at Hyperion Adventures Podcast, and you can always email us at HyperionAdventuresPodcast@gmail.com. Yeah! So let's get to this week's show, and there was a ton of stuff that happened this week, and we have a lot of stuff for you today, including Disney reveals it's Disney Plus. We found a lot of details about that. We get the title and trailer finally for the next Star Wars film. And we're going to review Disneynature's newest movies. But let's get to our main topic, which, if you remember from what we did last week we talked about going to Disneyland as a Walt Disney World fan. Well, this time we're switching that around. We're going to Walt Disney World as a Disneyland fan. And we discussed this a little bit of what inspired us last week, but just to go over that again, I grew up personally on the West Coast going to Disneyland. That was pretty much all I knew until much later in my life. Michelle, on the other hand, grew up going to Walt Disney World. She grew up in and around the East Coast and in Florida. And so she only knew Walt Disney World for much of her life. And we both kind of got shocked when we went to the other resort at some point.
Exactly. And we realized that a lot of that mainly had to do with expectations of having a similar experience to what we were accustomed to on our own personal coast.
Right. So for me, when I finally got into Walt Disney World for the first time, Michelle was the one who took me there for the first time. We had recently gotten together and she invited me out and I got to check it out for the first time. But it's a little overwhelming. I'm lucky that I had a guide like Michelle who knew it so well to kind of show me around and take me to all the great places to go and how to maneuver it. But it can be overwhelming. We're bringing family of mine, that has only known Disneyland as well. And so they're only used to tiny little Disneyland. We talked about it last week where you can just hop, skip, and jump from park to park. Right. And, before that, it was just one single park for so long. So easy. Walt Disney World can seem huge to you if you don't know it. And so it can be very overwhelming. So we thought we'd kind of go over that today.
Right. I mean, Walt Disney World does provide so many more options, which is awesome. But you're right, Tom. It is an overwhelming or daunting situation. And as we were preparing for today's podcast, realizing we need to do like even a separate episode just on how to prepare and plan for. But today, I think we really wanted to just demonstrate or highlight some of the differences for people so that if you do go into that park from the other coast, and in this case, going to Walt Disney World, then, you kind of have a little bit of understanding of what some of those differences are and kind of help and consider that when making your plans.
Right. It's a completely different world. It is a Disney World. It is a Walt Disney World. It really is much different, and it can feel... It really can bury you with how much there is to do and see and take in there. And if you don't do it correctly, if you don't plan correctly, you could feel like you didn't get to all the stuff you wanted to do, that everything was too far away. I mean, you really can have trouble. So this is kind of for if you've lived on the West Coast and haven't ever been, or anywhere in the U.S. or wherever, anywhere in the world, because we're global. We get these downloads from all around the world, which is always amazing to me. It can be a little bit interesting to kind of figure this all out. So we're here to kind of help you with that. And even if you've already been and felt overwhelmed the first time you went, or the 15th time you went because you weren't planning out or whatever the case, whatever the situation was, we're here to help. So, and after this episode is over, if you want to ask us any questions, we're happy to answer them for you.
Right. And so, talking about that as international or global, the things we're going to be talking about today would be applicable to people who have gone to like Disneyland Paris and coming over to Walt Disney World as well.
Right. And we which we have experience with. Right. We don't have an experience with any of the Asian parks, unfortunately. Yeah. We do want to do that. It is on our list of things to do here in the next several years. But we do know Disneyland Paris, and we know the differences, obviously, between those parks and Walt Disney World Resort as well. So let's get started. If you haven't done Walt Disney World much, you're probably traveling from at least a fair distance away. Most likely, you'll be flying in, maybe driving in, but most likely you'll be flying in. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. And Michelle's going to lead us off with talking about getting to Walt Disney World Resort.
All right, thanks. So first off, in terms of airport, you might remember last week we talked about the variations of airports you could consider coming into California. For Walt Disney World, the Orlando International Airport, or MCO, for McCoy.
It's the real McCoy.
The real McCoy.
It's the real McCoy.
A little trivia there from old time Orlando. Yeah. But anyways, that's the main airport to go to for Disney World. There are other airports that if you were going to go to other places in Florida that you could fly into and then drive to. But the main one, if you're just going into Walt Disney World, you would go into Orlando International Airport. The really amazing thing that they added on several years ago is what's called Disney's Magical Express. And so if you are staying on property, then you can take a free transport from the airport to your resort hotel, which is an amazing thing. I mean, they even send you luggage tags so you don't have to go to the carousel to pick up your luggage. They handle all of that and bring that to your resort as well. So it really starts your vacation off smoothly, quickly, gets you into that right away. Now, some people might want to get a rental car, especially if you're planning to do other things in or around the Orlando area. So, I mean, there are pros to that. You can get to wherever you want on your own schedule that way. Even, if you're staying on property and you want to use your own transportation to get to some of the parks or to other resorts for meals, etc., you have a lot more flexibility in that regards. And you can go to other places in Orlando, whether you want to go to outlet stores or to another vacation destination in Orlando. I don't think we have any problems with people at Universal Studios.
No, Universal, SeaWorld, whatever you want to go to. There are other theme parks in Orlando that people enjoy, and they're really great to explore. And obviously we are a little more towards Walt Disney World, but we can understand wanting to visit, if you're going to take this trip out there, wanting to visit some of these other parks.
Sure. So some of the things that are, not as positive about that is you now will be paying for parking when you're at the Disney Resort. So they no longer have free parking there for people staying there, so you would have to pay to park. So it's something that you'd have to consider when you're deciding your travel plans.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, definitely have to weigh that all into the situation. Again, Disney Magical Express, completely free. Comes along with your Walt Disney World Resort stay. Rental car, it'll cost you a little more, but you have a little more freedom. You can move around a little bit. There also is transportation within the resort we'll get into a little bit more that might also kind of guide you through it. I'm going to go into where you stay when you're visiting Orlando and visiting the Walt Disney World Resort. And actually, this could be a completely different, and actually it will be a completely different topic where we'll go into depth about all the different types of hotel resorts that are within the Walt Disney World Resort area, because there are 25 of them at this point right now, and there are more coming.
Right.
So you have lots of different choices, and we're going to go more in depth at another point. Right now, we're just going to kind of touch on this to kind of go through the situation. So, and also, by the way, you also have off-site locations too that aren't necessarily within the Walt Disney World Resort, but other places that you can stay nearby, and you might want to weigh that into the equation as well on where you want to stay.
And they also have the Disney-friendly hotels that they're,
the good neighbor hotels, just like they have at Disneyland. Yeah,
correct.
But so really when you're deciding where you want to stay, it really depends on your budget. And that includes whether you go off-site or go on-site. You save money. If you're on-site, you save money and time using their free transportation. I was just talking about that. The Disney Magical Express we just mentioned. When you're in the parks, getting to and from the different parks or different areas of the resort, they have the monorail. There are regular buses that go from every single resort to all the different parks, different locations around, and coming soon there'll be the Skyliner, which is kind of a if you don't know what that is, it's kind of the buckets that take you up and above and carry you to different areas, and it's going to be a new way to get throughout the parks. There's also minivans, which is a branch of Lyft, and of course Uber goes there too, so you can use that if you want to, or rental car. But the benefit of staying on resort is that free transportation to get you around.
Right. In a little while, we'll talk a little bit about how that works. But it is one of the benefits that comes with staying on property.
Another benefit that comes with staying on property, as long as you get your tickets ahead of time, you can book FastPass Plus selections 60 days out. If you're staying off-site, you only get 30 days for that. So that might put that into equation too of where you want to decide to stay. Because if you want to try and get some of the more popular attractions on Fast Passes, say like Slinky Dog Dash or Avatar Flight of Passage or some of these, trying to get those within the 30-day window can be a little bit difficult at times.
Right. And how those Fast Passes our reservations are different than Disneyland Resort is at Disneyland Resort, you don't even book a Fast Pass till you've actually gone through the front gates or turnstile. Here, as Tom mentioned, if you're staying on property and you have your tickets linked to your reservation, you can start booking 3 per day, and it has to be
for a single park.
For a single park. So that's exciting. Can I talk a little bit about Magic Bands here?
Yeah, let's talk about Magic Bands.
So another benefit of staying on property is you get a free Magic Band. That's a waterproof wristband, and it serves as your room key. But it's also, it links up with your passes and your Fast Passes. So that's how you activate the Fast Pass once you're in the park, or activate that you have a reserved Fast Pass. And since it's linked to your hotel, you can also use it for purchases. You do use a PIN, so it does have that safety valve on it, and it doesn't store your information on there. It just stores that you have the resort reservation. So your credit card information is not stored on the Magic Band. And the fun things about that is you can select colors. They have multiple colors that you can choose from, or you can bling it up. You can bling it up yourself, or you can buy little things to bling it up. So Magic Bands are a really wonderful benefit for staying on property.
Yeah, and you get those are complimentary with your stay. At least the few select pretty generic ones that are various different colors, and then you can, like you said, you can bling it up and do anything you want. You can also purchase some when you're at either online at the Disney Online or at the Walt Disney World Resort, and you can attach those to your account as well if you want some. They have some really cool ones. I saw a Goofy movie one last week that looked really cool. I was like, oh, I never thought I'd buy a Magic Band, but that one looks pretty cool. You don't have to pay for it if you don't want to. You get these free, and you can get them in different colors. Each different trip, you can get a different color. And
every person in your party that's staying gets one, because again, it does serve as your key to get into the room. And they last a long time. So if you travel multiple times, you can start building up your collection of different colors, so you can make sure that you match your outfit.
And it's a lot, yes, because we have to do that. It's also a lot easier when you get to the parks, that you don't have to carry around a ticket and some sort of credit card and your room key, and it's all right there in that one little thing. And they also started recently adding to where your phone at many of the resorts will work as your room key as well. So new stuff, interesting. Let's get into the various different types of Walt Disney World Resort hotels. Michelle's got a list of just in kind of general touch base on them.
Right. And they break it down by costs. So they have the categories. They have what they call the value resort hotels. So those are the ones that are the lesser priced cost ones, and they have fewer amenities to them, So they start around like $110 a night. And, all of their resorts will have, if nothing else, at least a food court, things like that. But in terms of having room service and things, it starts to get more minimal when you go on the value resorts. Then they have the moderate resort hotels. So those are a little bit more convenient. You have a little bit maybe more space. And then there's the deluxe resort hotels. Those are a lot more nicer hotel rooms, very beautiful, usually grand entryways and things like that.
They're usually at prime locations within the resort where it's easy to get to the parks and such, or transportation.
Right. And then they have what they call the deluxe villas. And these are, 1 to 3 bedroom suites that actually have like full kitchens, and they'll have, washer and dryer in your room and things like that. And so you can really develop what type of vacation you want based on your budget. But for all of them, the things that we talked about that come with staying on site are available. So they do provide you that transportation throughout the resort areas, and you will be able to get food. It's just, again, we all know what the difference is between a budget resort and a more luxurious resort. And so they have more of those layers at Walt Disney World.
But I will say, we recently, just when we talked about this back in January when we came off of our vacation, we talked about our vacation episode. For the first time in a long time, we were just going to the Walt Disney World Resort for one night, and we did stay at one of the value resorts.
Right.
We did one of the remodeled rooms over at All Star Movies. And we were really impressed by it. It was really well done. The new remodeled rooms are really great. The access to food was really easy there, even late at night and early in the morning. And transportation, I mean, yes, it's a little off the beaten path. It takes a little transportation a little bit longer, but we really had no problems with that either.
Absolutely.
So
there was one other I forgot to talk about.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
The campgrounds. You can go camping.
Yes, you can camp.
At Walt Disney World, at Fort Wilderness, in fact. And you can do whether you want to bring in your own trailer there. They have hookups and all the amenities to that, or you can even go tent camping. I have actually done pop tent camping at the campground.
It's actually a really nice campground area. The areas that they have to go camping at, whether it be with an RV or some sort of trailer, or whether you actually are on the grounds, they're really good. And they have transportation within the campgrounds, and it's really easy to get to the park transportation from where they are as well. And they also have the cabins there, which we happen to be spending some time with our family in June, which we really like the cabins there, which are really nice as well. But it's a great location.
That's glamping, but yes.
Yes, it is. It's really glamping. It's not camping at all. But actually, Fort Wilderness is another. That's a whole episode for us too.
Yes.
Just talk about Fort Wilderness at some point because it's one of our favorite places. Even though we're DVC members and we don't use our DVC points there, we like to stay there often because it's one of our favorite spots in the whole resort.
Yes.
But I digress. Let's move on. Let's get to the parks and talk about what you'll experience there. If you know Disneyland, of course, you have the two parks. You have Disneyland Park and you have Disney's California Adventure Park, and they're right next to each other, and you can, if you have a park hopper ticket, you can go back and forth all you want. Everything is right there for you. Well, Walt Disney World Resort, as we talked about earlier, things are a little different. They have let's talk about a few of the difference at the Walt Disney World Resort. And I've been corrected by this from last week. Amy, I see you out there. I mentioned last week that everything at Walt Disney World has a fast pass. No, not really. But most things at the Walt Disney World Resort do have a fast pass option. Much different than what you see at Disneyland Resort, when there's only some of the more popular ones. And even some of the more popular ones don't necessarily have fast pass options at Disneyland Resort. Walt Disney World is completely different. That's why we were talking about fast passes earlier, and booking those fast passes ahead of time can help you so much. Now, here's the layout. There's 4 theme parks at the Walt Disney World Resort. You have Magic Kingdom, which, if you think of Disneyland Park, fairly similar, different, but fairly similar. Epcot, which kind of combines this kind of futuristic area, parts that goes on the land, the sea, some of the future areas of it. And there's also another area that's called World Showcase that goes through various different countries, and you can experience a little touch of all those countries with an attraction attached to each one that kind of speaks to that area of the world, except for some people will say, well, Frozen, not really Norway, but you know, it's kind of like that. So, but anyway, you also move on to Disney's Hollywood Studios, which parts of that will kind of remind you of Disney California Adventure Park, but it's kind of more of an adventurous park, a more interesting park if you like thrill rides. I think I would say I would call them maybe a little bit more, a little bit more of the IP that you see at Disney parks is kind of located within Disney's Hollywood Studio. And then there's Disney's Animal Kingdom Park, which has it's sort of, if you know San Diego, the safari park, it's kind of a cross between a theme park and a safari park, you know. So there's animals out roaming around. You can go see these real animals. There's animal experiences all around it, but there's also attractions that are around there that are based on animals and not real animals like Pandora.
Dinosaurs.
But yeah, they were real. They're just not around anymore. But basically, so all these parks kind of give you a different experience, and you know, and they're all different in many ways. So you kind of want to, you know, depending on what your favorite thing to do is you kind of want to have a taste of them all.
Right.
So, but Michelle has some more information on the parks as well.
Well, considering that, a couple things. So when you're talking about the different parks, and one of the things we addressed last week was the issue of park hopper versus single park tickets or passes. And, we said at Disneyland, since it's so easy to go back and forth multiple times throughout the day, then having a park hopper pass really kind of helps with that. But at Walt Disney World, everything is spread out pretty far. So having that park hopper, if you're looking to save some money, that might be something that you might want to consider, just having a single day park and really just immersing yourself in a different park each day. And so since we're talking about that spreading out, I think transportation differences is something that, you can really notice coming from Disneyland to Walt Disney World. So we talked about the different forms, whether it's monorail or buses and soon to come Skyliner, things like that. All great things. Not every hotel has all of those. But the main difference is the amount of time that you have to allocate to get from point A to point B. So, for example, if you have a dining reservation at either a different park or at the hotel that you're currently at, you may need to really factor in an hour to get there. And that's because, for example, let's say you're leaving your resort and you go to the front. You wait for a bus, and they are on a routine schedule. They have more buses, earlier in the day and later at night, to transport bulk of people. But in general, they're going about every 15 to 20 minutes. And then the ride itself, because again, you're traveling on this vast area of Walt Disney World, that ride itself could take 15 minutes. And then once you're dropped off, you need to go through security. So, and then through the front gates and to the location of your reservation. So adding those, 10, 15-minute chunks here and there could add up to an hour. So it's always best to plan that travel time. You might luck out. You might get right to the front of the hotel and there's the bus you want. Huzzah!
Yeah, and that's always a huzzah, all right, when that happens.
It is. But in order, it's, again, something to set your expectations at that are different so that you aren't disappointed when you're like, oh my God, I didn't think it was going to take that long and now I'm late for my dining reservation and it's going to, possibly cause some challenges to accommodate your party. Although, give them credit, the cast members of Walt Disney World really do want to make things right for you. But if you thought something was going to take 10, 15 minutes and it takes an hour, you might have a little bit of struggle with meeting your expectations for that.
Right, exactly. That's very true and a very good point to put out there. Also out there, there's all sorts of other things to do besides the parks. Now, of course, you go to there, you're probably going to want to go to the parks, but there are other things to do as well. They do have 2 water parks there, so you can get hot and humid and everything in many of the months outside of maybe a couple months in Florida, in Orlando. So, but they do have a couple water parks you could visit: Disney's Blizzard Beach and Disney's Typhoon Lagoon. There's also lots of other things. Even the resorts themselves are just fun to explore because they're all different, they're all unique, and they all have all sorts of interesting theming. Michelle has a little talk about the resorts that you can experience.
Right, and that plays into when you're planning your trip as well, is what kind of things do you like? I mean, obviously we talked about budget being one of them, or you just may want to experience some of the activities at some of these other resorts because they do have, different restaurants, etc., that you can participate in. So and obviously their names kind of give it away as to what the theming is, but they do an amazing job. And we see that at Disneyland Resort hotels as well. They do a really great job at theming. Here you just kind of get a little bit more eccentric, I guess, on some of these themings that makes it so fun. Like there's Wilderness Lodge, which is, themed on kind of like replicating Yosemite Park. And so I don't want to give away secrets there of that, but even if you're just able to go there and go into the lodge, the main entryway of that. It's just spectacular to spend some time in there. They also actually do tours, free tours, several days of the week for that lodge that are, because it is so impressive how they did the theming and the respect that they had when doing the theming. And then they have the Polynesian Resort Hotel, which obviously, it's as it sounds, it's all Polynesian themed. And they actually do have even a luau most nights. Then there's Animal Kingdom Lodge. And with that lodge, you can have a room that overlooks an area where they bring animals throughout the day. And so you could be sitting on your balcony and start seeing giraffes and coming right by your resort.
Yeah, it's really cool. We've done that, and then we're doing that in this next trip again. So that is one of the coolest things for sure.
Right. And boardwalk. Obviously, it's got a boardwalk area and fun arcade-type games to play. And all these places, as I mentioned, have great restaurants and fun activities that you could participate even if you're not staying on property.
Yeah, you can just go check out. You can take a bus and check out one of the free transportation buses around the resort and go and just resort hop and have a cool experience just checking them all out because they're all amazing and they're all different.
Right. And again, with the transportation is set up to take you to and from a resort and a park. So if you want to go to a different resort, the way you would do that, one way that you would do that would be to take transportation to one of the parks and then take a different transportation back to another resort hotel. Or, as Tom mentioned, there's minivans, which is associated with Lyft. There's Uber. So there are other ways to do it that may be more efficient.
Some of these bigger ones are also on the monorail system. So if you want to hit up the Contemporary, the Polynesian, the Grand Floridian, that's all on the monorail system. You can also, there's boat system that will take you to the Wilderness Lodge as well as to the Fort Wilderness and some other locations. So there are other ways to get around from some of these locations. But yes, you will have to, if you want to go explore and don't have a car, you will have to find ways to get to, they don't have buses that just go from resort to resort usually.
Yeah, because again, they're trying to make it efficient for you to get from your hotel to the parks.
Right.
And some of the other things that they have there, like in the evenings, many of the resorts now have the movies under the stars. And you can, if you're staying at one of those resorts, you can go to that one or you can go to another one. That started at the campgrounds, which was fun that they've really expanded that. That one has, they do the s'mores, the campfire program, et cetera.
Yeah,
so,
a lot of fun.
Yeah, so just having an opportunity to explore some of the different resorts is also fun. And that's another way that you could spend a day without even going into the parks.
Without spending that extra money on a ticket. Right. Maybe a day to kind of decompress. You've done park. Maybe you want a day to I don't want to walk for 40,000 steps in the park today. I mean, just kind of check out the resorts.
Right. And then, as you mentioned, they have other types of experiences like they have 4 golf courses there, and they have miniature golf as well with Fantasia Gardens. And so, sometimes people think, the family doesn't want to go to Disney World because maybe not everybody is as enthusiastic of going to a Disney park as other ones are. And just to keep in mind that there are so many other experiences that are available to you that could, hit on different people's, level of desire. There's great spas in a lot of the resorts as well.
Exactly. I was about to say that. Yeah, you don't have to. You could be there and not necessarily be a fan of the parks and not really want to go into the parks at all and still have a wonderful vacation just in Walt Disney World and just in these luxury resorts that they have around.
Right. And they also have Disney Springs, which, was originally downtown Disney and it really expanded. Like you said, Disney Springs on steroids. It has a lot of great restaurants from some celebrity chefs like Morimoto, Art Smith, Jose Andres, so and others too.
And many
others.
Actually, lots of great restaurants there.
Right. So a lot of great restaurants, great shopping, and throughout the year they have different seasonal Disney events. So that's also another great area that you could go to. And speaking of restaurants and the such, another great difference in my opinion, between the two parks or planning for the two parks is that you actually get to do dining reservations 180 days in advance. And so that's really a nice convenience that you can, if you've planned your trip in advance and booked things like your resort hotel, then 6 months out, I can start reserving our dining reservations. And it's so easy to do either on the app or on their website. And it's really important for some of those very sought out places like Be Our Guest or Cinderella's Castle. I mean, there's a lot of, not everyone has as much difficulty to get in there, and a lot of it would depend on your party size. We're traveling with seven people.
Yes,
and
big group.
Yes. And so we know that sometimes that makes it, also a little bit more consideration for getting those reservations early on. So that's another great benefit that is afforded to you. You don't have to be staying on property to get that 180-day advance reservation. You can change them throughout, even up until, last minute. You can be making adjustments and changes. So some of them do have cancellation minimum time frames. Usually for most hotels, it's 24 hours. Some of the shows, or dinner parties, it's maybe a couple days. So when you're making those reservations, be conscientious of that so you don't have any extra charges.
Exactly. But yeah, definitely. There's some like Be Our Guest, that Cinderella's Table, like you mentioned, that you are going to want to jump on immediately when your 6-month window comes up, because those go away pretty quickly. So you want to jump on that. I just want to touch also on tickets really quickly. Michelle mentioned a little bit about tickets earlier, but I want to talk just a little bit about if you're going out there and what ticket is right for you. There's several different options out there. You can do, they have some specials going on right now that I think are just about to wrap up, but it's a 1-day, one park ticket where you go and you can only go in one time. So if you're going from just the whole time you're there, you just go at one park, then that ticket might be for you. That's not a bad price. Regularly, they have just the one park ticket, 1-day ticket, which starts, it's the base number that's mostly you're going to find. And they do have variable prices by date now, just so you know that this is kind of changing based on how busy they think the parks are going to be. So a week that they think is going to be busier might be a little higher price than a week that they think is going to be slower. So just keep that in mind. But for what would be a typical 1-day, one park ticket right now, it starts at $109 for that. Now, if you decide you're going to go for more than 1 day, which if you're going all the way to Walt Disney World, you're probably going to go for more than 1 day. We would suggest going for at least a week. 5 days, maybe you can kind of get by in, but a week would really be beneficial. And you have more time, that's great. But the difference, the prices change very much if you do this by buying the package of days you go by. So if you were to buy instead, say, a 5-day, one park ticket. So each of the 5 days you can use one ticket for entry into one single park. And that would drop your price down to $83 per day starting out. Again, these prices are variable, but that's your starting price. If you're going for a week and you go for 7 days of one park tickets, that drops your price down to $61 per day. And again, to start. If you're going for 10 days, if you have the luckiness to be able to go and do a 10 days worth of tickets in parks there, that drops your price all the way down to $47 per day. So you can get a little bit benefit by buying many tickets. They want you to stay around. They want you to stay in the resort. They want you coming to the parks as much as possible. They give you a benefit of that. Other options out there, now those are for single parks. There's park hopper tickets, which will allow you, like we were talking about, like say if you want to have a little bit of Magic Kingdom and a little bit of Epcot or whatever, or even if you just want to have dinner in Epcot or whatever the case may be, if you want to visit a couple parks in a day, that will jump it up a little bit more. If you want to go to the water parks, that also is a different option. You can buy single tickets just for the water parks any day you want separately, but they also have passes, tickets that will allow you to go to the water parks. If you just say like, it's hot today, I don't want to go to the parks, let's just go to the water park, that ticket will allow you to do that. There's also annual passes now. Those of you who know Disneyland Resort, Annual passes are what drive Disneyland Resort. That's why the price of annual passes are very, very expensive, because of the fact that so many people have them, and they want you to, they need to kind of curb that a little bit, especially with Galaxy's Edge opening up here in, gosh, what is it, like 6 weeks now? Oh my gosh, it's so close. So they're trying to kind of curb the crowds down a little bit, and the prices have gotten really, really high.
Right. And like what you've said to me is that it's higher because in Disneyland Resort, they are expecting you to go many times throughout the year. And so, it is to help offset the cost of running that park. So, unlike, in the past, maybe they thought you might just go in for a couple hours. Now people are really going and really enjoying a lot of the park.
Yes, as we've talked about in the past, Disneyland Resort has millions of people within a 2-hour drive of getting to this park. So annual passes is easy because, like, even just yesterday, we went out to Disneyland and we just did a quick day. We popped in the morning. We just decided in the morning we're going to go. It was about an hour and a half drive up there. Popped in. We did about 6-7 hours there, did a few attractions, ate some food from the Food and Wine Festival, had a glass of wine, checked out, did some people watching, bought a few things, and then bailed out, like in the afternoon. And that's what you can do when you have an annual pass and you live within a quick distance from it. Going to Walt Disney World, completely different. I mean, yes, Orlando is a fairly large city, but it doesn't compare to anything in Southern California as far as it's just much smaller. So there's fewer people that are just have annual passes out there. But the benefit of that is that if you decide you want to do an annual pass, the prices as compared to Disneyland Resort are much, much lower. They do have blackout dates for certain passes. They do have certain park restrictions, like some of them don't have the water parks added into them or whatever the case may be. But the prices are much more in the realm. So if you are going for something around 2 weeks for whatever reason, or if you think you might visit twice in a year or whatever, it's really worth considering looking at an annual pass because the price can offset. Plus, you get discounts on much of the food, much of the merchandise, various different ways you can find discounts. So it is worth taking a look at to see if instead of paying for this much amount of tickets, is an annual pass a better option for you.
Right. It is more reasonable to look at something like that than what you would look at for an annual pass at Disneyland Resort right now.
Right. If you're going to Disneyland and you're just going for 3-4 days, which is plenty for Disneyland Resort, you don't need to get an annual pass for that. Tickets will do you just fine, especially with the prices of annual passes. However, if you're staying for a little longer or taking 2 trips to Walt Disney World Resort, you really should just at least take a look at it and weigh the numbers. Look at the monetary value, and remember to throw in, even if it's just a few dollars difference, throw in the discounts that you get with dining as well into that situation, just so you kind of have an idea of what you're looking into. And we're happy to answer any questions on those as well if you're looking for them.
Right, absolutely. And as we mentioned it earlier on in the podcast, we do plan to do an episode just on how to plan a Disney vacation and a Disney trip. So, but we hopefully are giving you some ideas if you've only experienced Disneyland or Disneyland Paris or something like that you can, kind of understand that there are some differences to take into consideration, again, just to make it a much more enjoyable vacation for you, to know those differences up front. Some of the differences are great, and I guess a lot of the differences are all great. It's just, again, setting your expectations so that you're ready and can enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you've never been to a Disney park before, I think this is some information that you may need to kind of get you on. And again, we're just scratching the surface.
Yes.
I mean, really, there's so much to touch on at the Walt Disney World Resort. We'll get into much more of that on a different episode, but we just kind of wanted to give you kind of the feel out of what it's like to go, and especially when you're a Disneyland fan, because it is so different and it can be overwhelming completely for you if you're not ready for it.
Right. But there are so many wonderful things.
It's great.
And so, like you're saying, different. I mean, just going into Epcot and walking around World Showcase and really getting to try foods from other lands. They hire they hire people who are actually from those countries, so they can really share with you a lot of what their homeland is like. They're great in talking with them and getting some of their experiences from their countries, the different types of food. Just it's a great way to learn things. So
same with animal.
That's just one example
Animal
of
Kingdom,
one park.
Disney Animal Kingdom Park. If you're really into animals, and they really do a really great job of showcasing the animals there that they have. You get to learn about them there as well. It's great for young ones that love animals. There's lots of different experiences there to learn more about the animals and find out about their habitats and everything. And it's a great park in that regard. And then if you just want the full Disney magic, then Magic Kingdom, is a great place. It's Disney. It just shouts Disney to you. And the studios has all the, has the Rock and Roller Coaster featuring Aerosmith. It has that, by the way, the Tower of Terror. If you were a Tower of Terror fan and you were sad that it went away from Disneyland Resort, from Disney California Adventure Park, well, it still is the original Tower of Terror at Disney Hollywood Studios.
Right.
And they're just all so much cool stuff to go. And we really recommend at some point in your life, if you're a Disney fan, you just know Disneyland or whatever the case, make the pilgrimage, go out to Walt Disney World Resort. And we're always happy to answer any questions if you are making that pilgrimage.
Absolutely.
And we'll have all sorts of ways, of course, like we had it at the front of the show. We'll have it at the back of the show, how you can contact us if you have any other questions. Now, we did something also different this week that we haven't done much of before. And, well, yes, we've screened plenty of movies before. We've talked about them many times on this show. We talked many, many movies that we've reviewed. But we, for whatever reason, the Disneynature films, they just never landed with us.
Right.
We really have not gone too much, and it really was, why? Why didn't we? We've talked about this a couple of times. We've heard they're really good, they're really enjoyable, and the people do a great job on them. We love Disney, we love animals, and we love documentaries. We watch a lot of documentaries, and so we both agree we should. And we just so happen to be able to go to a screening recently of Disneynature's newest film, and that is Penguins. We're so glad we finally got to go see one because this movie did not disappoint.
Absolutely did not disappoint. It was really fun, and like you said, after being there, it's like, right, why didn't we do this? But this was a really fun, enjoyable movie, and yet we learned a lot too.
Yeah. Oh, a ton.
Our good friend Jenny at Disney DNA, I know she's big into edutainment, and
this is an edutainment film.
This is it.
Yeah. Definitely. It's great. This is our review of Disneynature Penguins, by the way, which comes out this coming week on Earth Day on the 17th, I believe is when it's coming out. So here's the setup of Disneynature's Penguins. Okay, this film takes us to Antarctica, and we're going to follow the story of an Adelaide penguin who is affectionately named Steve. Of course, why wouldn't you?
Right?
Name him Steve. So anyway, we travel along with him as he kind of comes of age. He's a very young penguin. He comes of age. He, forms a family, but he's struggling against Antarctica. I mean, Antarctica, think about Antarctica, what you know of Antarctica. Even in the summer, it's pretty darn cold there.
Right.
He's also dealing with things like 150 mile an hour winds. And, there's like orca killer whales. There's these seals. That are really scary, actually, which is funny. You don't think of seals as really scary, but leopard seals look really scary in this. And
right.
So he's doing all this stuff, and it's, it's a tough life to get through, but it was interesting to watch.
It was interesting to watch, but it's not sitting there giving you just fact after fact after fact. You're seeing it happen in a very fun way, I should say.
Yeah, it really, and we'll talk about that. So let's just talk about the film crew that did this a little bit.
Amazing.
Yeah, they shot this over 3 years, almost 900 camera days within Antarctica itself. They battled temperatures that dropped below 40 degrees a lot of times, winds that we just talked about, more than 150 miles an hour. That's insane, but they've caught some wonderful, wonderful footage of it. You see the grandeur and the expanse of Antarctica. You see the beauty of it. You see some of the scariness and how difficult it can be there and how harsh it is. But at the same time, you see all this bigness, this immenseness of Antarctica. You get these really intimate looks at the lives of these penguins and some of the other creatures that are in Antarctica. They really did a wonderful job of capturing it.
And, when watching it, it's like, oh my gosh, how did they do all that? And so what's really nice is at the end of the film, during the credits, you get to see some footage of actually how they did some of this. And then you even appreciate it more, what they went through.
Yeah, they almost have outtakes. Like you've seen the outtakes in the credits before. They have outtakes from you want to stay through the credits because it's amazing to see what they did and how they filmed it and some of the funny outtakes.
Right, and how they captured some of the amazing footage.
Yeah. So the narrator, this film was narrated by Ed Helms, who you may know from The Office, the Hangover movies. I was when we first heard the Ed Helms, really? We're like, we saw March of the Penguins, and that's Morgan Freeman. I mean, with that.
Yes.
I mean, he was God in a movie. I mean, he's the voice of God. So it's a little interesting to hear Ed Helms. I'm like, I don't know, Ed Helms, but. Oh, he was so good. He made this movie. He really made, obviously the cinematography was what really made this movie. But what really drew you into the voiceless characters, obviously they have penguin voices and whatever. They do make noises, but, not, what you can understand. So what drew you into Steve and the other penguins was Ed Helms portraying these penguins.
Yes, he was impressive. I know whether it be script, and you pointed out it would make sense that some of this may have been ad-libbed, but it's just kind of like if you're watching a movie and maybe you have the sound off and you make up the dialogue of what's going on or description of what's going on. And that's what he did with penguins. And it was phenomenal.
It was perfect.
It was. He did a great job. I was like, yes, he was the person for this.
Yeah. Those were the perfect parts. Obviously, he did also describe, at the same time, he would do these little things. And I do think a lot of it was off the cuff, that he was just watching the film and saying, oh, kind of that kind of stuff. But he would also still be able to break down the more tender moments, the more harrowing moments, descriptions of penguin life, Antarctic life, and did it really, really successfully.
Absolutely. And like I said, he just made it fun. Mm-hmm. It was... I know I'm repeating myself and not really giving a lot of depth to it, but I also don't want to give things away. Right.
Spoiler free.
I know.
Right. Let's talk about Steve the Penguin. Oh my God, I so love Steve the Penguin.
Adorable.
But mostly because of Ed Helms' narration of him. But he was so darn cute. It's adorable. And the thing about Steve the Penguin is that he goes through this. He struggles to find the right mate. He's building a home. He's raising a family. He's hoping the tools that he's provided his family lead them to a better place in their life so they can succeed out in the world. I was thinking about it. I'm like, oh my God, Steve is all of us.
Yes.
We all do that. That's our lives. That's what we have to go through. Steve's a penguin, but he is us.
It is funny seeing how the penguins interact with each other and things. And of course, with the narration, giving it some personality and things like that. But wow, I would not have guessed some of the things that penguins do. Let's just leave it at that.
Yes.
Do with each other. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. It's just kind of comical.
It's interesting. Penguins are interesting creatures, for sure. So interesting. Anyway, bottom line with this film, it's beautifully shot. It's immense, glorious, breathtaking, and yet very intimate at the same time. It's funny. It's harrowing at times. It's not that long a film. It's like an hour and 16 minutes, I think is what it is. Mm-hmm. So kids will love this film. There's stuff for adults in it. It's a great family movie. Like I said, you can take the kids and it won't be like one of those things where they have to sit through 2 hours of a film. You can go through it and just have a good time and get through it. I gave it 3 3/4 out of 4 stars. Michelle,
I would agree with that. Yes, and like you said, it is a film for any age. We were viewing it with kids there of different ages, and everybody seemed to be able to really enjoy it. So, that you can take that doubt out of your mind because it really does hit a lot of different levels.
One more note on this film. If you're going to go see this in the first week of its release, that's from the 17th of April to the 23rd of April, Disneynature is going to donate 20 cents out of each ticket sold to the Wildlife Conservation Network through the Disney Conservation Fund. They guaranteed a minimum donation of $100,000. That's to support penguin conservation. So if you're going to go out and see this film, there are some benefits out there that they're going to be helping these creatures and just wildlife in general. So just another side note to make you happy about going and seeing this film.
Celebrate Earth Day.
And celebrate Earth Day and watch some fun little penguins run around.
Yes.
And, story of Steve, who is all of us. Steve is great. Love
great.
Steve. Love Steve so much. Let's get to the Disney stories of the week. This week was incredibly full of Disney stories because there's a lot of stuff that I'm not going to be able to touch on because this was such a jam-packed week. One, because we had the reveal of Disney Plus on Thursday, and then Thursday also kicked off Star Wars Celebration. Lots of news coming out from both of those things. We'll start with Disney Plus since that was the first thing that happened this week. It was on Thursday, April 11th. Disney showcased its new streaming service for investors. Wow. Holy cow. This meeting, I was watching it and expecting it to be like an hour and a half or something. There was even an intermission. I joked with Rob LeBerry, our friend, and also host of the Jedi Temple Archives podcast, like, oh yeah, sure, you can get an intermission in this, but we can't get an intermission in Avengers Endgame, whatever. But really, they needed one because this thing was so long and so in-depth, but there was so much to this investor meeting. But really cool, interesting news that came out of it. We already knew that this would include content from, of course, Disney, as well as Pixar, Star Wars, Marvel, and National Geographic, which is interesting. We also knew it would contain the whole entire Disney film library. They had already announced that. We knew that was happening. Here's some other details that we found out. We saw the interface for it, which looked beautiful.
Yes.
Everything was categorized. You know, there's a button for Pixar, there's a button for Disney, there's a button for Star Wars, Marvel, anything you're looking for. You can also search the whole thing. It really looks really functional. Really easy to use and really easy to find what you're searching for.
Right. I mean, if you've ever used Disney Now app, I think it took a lot of the great features of that and put it into this format as well.
Mm-hmm. It looked really nice. I was really impressed with the look of it all, and I can't wait to check it out. So they told us that there are going to be more than 25 original series and 10 original films, documentaries, and specials that are going to be coming out brand new just for this service. Here's what we found out from some of the things that have been confirmed. A lot of these have been rumors up to this point, but they were confirmed at this meeting. For Marvel, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is coming out, which is going to have their stars. Yes, Anthony Mackie is the Falcon and Sebastian Stan as the Winter Soldier. Cool. A show called WandaVision, which is kind of an interesting name for it. But that includes, of course, Scarlet Witch, Wanda, and Vision, and that's played by Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany, the original stars of the series. They'll be returning to their roles for this. We also learned that there's going to be an animated Marvel film called What If? And what that is going to be, not film, it's series, excuse me, that's going to be taking kind of things in the Marvel universe and kind of flipping them a little bit. So like, for example, the example they gave, which I loved because we've discussed it a little bit on this show a couple times, what if Agent Peggy Carter became Captain America?
Sure.
And that's happened in the comics. So it's going to be interesting to see. And that's just kind of an idea of what these things might look like. So I thought that was kind of fascinating.
It was. And it gives a lot more opportunity to, like you're saying, either tag on to what some of the original comics were, or just make some dramatic changes and thinking about what if, which we saw Disney do that already with their Once Upon a Time series, where they really made changes to the backstory of some of these characters that we all know and love. So
yeah,
they're very creative, for
very
sure.
Creative and very cool, and that's exciting stuff. Walt Disney Animation Studios, they've told us that they're going to be doing a kind of a making of Frozen 2. It's going to be called Into the Unknown, which they also told us, by the way, that Into the Unknown, Jennifer Lee said this, may happen to be a song title from Frozen 2, which to me says, yes, that is a song title from Frozen 2, Into the Unknown, which is interesting. Another tidbit there thrown at our way. Pixar is going to have a couple specials, including the one they're going to have a docuseries looking back at many of their animation specialists, they're artists, but also they're going to have a special show that's called Forky Asks a Question, which is, Forky is the new character coming into Toy Story 4, and that's got to be interesting. That's got to be fun.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
He's trying to, I guess, kind of figure out what life is, since he's just been made. Like he's basically born yesterday, so interesting. Star Wars fans, of course, we already knew that that the Clone Wars saved. So Clone Wars is coming back. They were doing The Mandalorian, which we'll get to in just a second here. They're going to be doing the Cassian Andor series, which doesn't have a title yet, but it is exciting. We did find out that K2SO was going to be in that. They confirmed that, so that was exciting.
Awesome.
That happened actually before Star Wars Celebration. That happened at the Disney Plus showcase event for investors. But we also found out, and this was something we talked about several months ago, that when they're doing this Disney Plus service, they didn't have the rights to. They had the rights still to all the Star Wars films that Disney has created since the Disney bought Lucasfilm. However, before they decided to do the streaming service, they had given the rights to Turner Broadcasting, so that's TBS, TNT, and so forth, that to have these films to show them on television because they didn't think they were going to need them. They weren't planning the streaming service, So it was in question on whether all these films were going to be on Disney Plus at its launch. Well, we found out. If I missed it, maybe there was a story out there that I missed that they had already announced this somewhere, but this was the first I'd heard of it, that when this platform comes out, yes, they will have every Star Wars film on it. So, yes, that's awesome. Exciting. So they must have come to a deal with Turner. I'm sure it was money. Yeah. But they came to a deal with Turner to get those films or at least have them on their service. I don't know what they paid her. I don't know if they'll still be on Turner or what the deal is. But that was great news, and we're excited about that. National Geographic, they talked about a couple of shows they're going to be on there. The World According to Jeff Goldblum, which excites me because Jeff Goldblum is just such an interesting person.
What a character.
To watch. He's a total character. Just go watch Thor Ragnarok, and that just speaks on Jeff Goldblum so much. And I know he's playing a character, but it almost seems like that's him in Thor Ragnarok. It's so funny. And then also the Magic of the Animal Kingdom, which is it's almost like what was that show? That was back in the 70s. That was Wild Kingdom or whatever it was.
Right,
yeah. Kind of. I don't know if that's what it's going to be like, but it kind of, makes me think something like that. When I hear the title. Disney television animation. I'm really excited because, we're fans of a television show that's not on anymore, except for, at least they're not making new episodes anymore. But we found out that they're going to be making a brand new untitled Phineas and Ferb movie. More Phineas and Ferb is a good thing. We love Phineas and Ferb, so that's exciting.
Yes, if you haven't watched Phineas and Ferb, you are missing out. And I know from experience that somebody told me that years ago when they were still making the series, and I was like, oh, they look so weird. I just have no desire.
It looks like a kid's show.
Right. Oh my gosh, you will love it.
Yeah, we were just talking about Disneynature penguins being for all ages. I think Phineas and Ferb hits all ages in many ways. There's humor for kids, there's humor for adults. There's music in it, that's really great musical numbers. If you like musicals.
You learn things.
You learn things. It's really kind of cool show. So if you haven't checked it out, do check it out. Also, we found out with the Walt Disney Imagineering will have a documentary series. We kind of heard some rumors of that regard, but they will be doing that, a documentary based on Walt Disney Imagineering. Every episode of The Simpsons is going to be on this. You had to hear the thing that The Simpsons said to welcome themselves to Disney. It's pretty hilarious. Here it is.
Homer Simpson here, proud addition to the Disney family and soon appearing on Disney Plus. I, for one, salute our new corporate overlords. Now, family, put on the mouse ears. You only get one chance to make a first impression.
I don't wanna, I'm not gonna, you can't make me.
Put on the ears, boy. Marge? What's up? This is a great honor.
Take it, Maggie.
So great. Love it so much. Love it so much. So all told, there are going to be more than 7,500 television episodes on this service and 500 films, all on Disney+.
Wow.
Wow. That is so much content. And we found out the date. It's going to be a while yet, unfortunately, but they're launching it on November 12th of this year, 2019. So look forward to that. But the real big news to this, and we knew that they were going to go, they've said it. Bob Iger said it. They've said it many times that, look, we're not going to be Netflix, so we're not going to try and do that price that Netflix is doing. Not only are they not doing that price, they're going way under that price.
Right.
$6.99 per month to start out for Disney+. And if you go for the whole year, you can purchase the whole year at once for $69.99. That drops it down to $5.83 per month. What a steal for all this content, especially for Disney fans. I mean, it's like I want to buy 2 now because that's such a good deal.
Right?
It's still buying 2 at that price is still less than what Netflix costs.
Right.
Not for their basic package, but for their package that most people buy.
Yes.
$5.83 per month is less than that
good.
package. Yeah. Crazy good. And so here's the result of this investor showcase. The day after, on the Friday after this showcase, on the 12th, Disney stock surged by 11.5% up.
Yeah.
And Netflix dipped by 4.5%. That was a crazy swap after what they saw from this. That was how good this showcase was for investors.
And actually, Netflix is raising their rates.
Yeah,
too,
they just announced that right before that. I mean, it almost makes me wonder if Disney was like, "Oh, you're going to raise your rates?" We were going to talk about doing this at about $8.99, $9.99. We're going to drop it down even more, just to show you guys. But no, that's so great and great news for everybody. And they also showcase on Hulu and ESPN Plus, and there's another one that's actually a service that is in India that can be done on small broadband. So, like if you don't have the really great Wi-Fi, or so you can stream it easier within India to more people. It's another interesting site. So, lots of interesting stuff came out of this entire showcase.
Well, and like you said, also confirming a lot of the things that we knew, and making it more real very soon, that we're going to get to experience all this fun and have it at our fingertips.
Yeah, so cool. It's exciting, and we have to wait till November 12th, unfortunately, but very much looking forward to having it out there. And it's great that they're going to have so much content right off the get-go for us to check out. We're really looking forward to that.
Well, and plus the fact that if you think about, right now, if you see a Disney movie in the theaters and you really like it, you plan to buy the Blu-ray or, the digital or whatever, and that's included in this.
Yeah. All the films that are coming out here in the next year are all going to be on there very early on within the first year of the launch of Disney Plus. So
we'll save money.
Yeah. Actually, we will. And we'll be streaming a lot of these movies instead. And they did say also a lot of the content will be downloadable too. So if you're on a trip where you don't have Wi-Fi or whatever, or you're with the kids and you won't have Wi-Fi or some way or internet service, you can download some of these movies and different things onto your device, and you can have them on flights, on car rides, on whatever the case may be. So you don't have to use your data or your streaming service all the time to have them. So that's a benefit as well. So that's kind of cool. Now let's move on to the next big batch of news that came out this weekend, and that is Star Wars Celebration 2019 in Chicago. It's still going on, so there's probably more news being broken. We're recording this on Sunday, so there's probably more stuff this afternoon. There's one more day tomorrow on Monday. There might be some more news that comes out there, but we'll get to the stuff that we know to this point. And we're going to start off with, finally, we have a trailer for Star Wars Episode 9.
We've passed on all we know. 1,000 generations live in you now. But this is your fight.
All right, so audio-wise, okay, maybe that wasn't the most exciting thing just listening to it because there's not a lot of dialogue actually in that trailer, but visually and even listening I got chills again just listening to that last cackle at the end of it. And that's just listening to it. That's not even watching it. Oh, it was so exciting.
It was exciting. It makes you think, like, oh my gosh, so much to speculate.
So we also got the title, of course. It's Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. There's a lot of speculation on that, too. What does that mean? Of course, it all goes. We're going to have several months until we hit December when the film actually comes out. There's going to be so much speculation on what any of this means. I'm sure there'll be more trailers to come yet, but really cool stuff. The panel was interesting. I just totally shut down work on that day. I just sat back and watched the panel. It had all the main people, J.J. Abrams, Kathleen Kennedy. They had all the different actors there. Billy D. Williams, who was, I didn't know what Billy D. was on that day, but he was having a good time. Let's just say that. But it was fun. All the actors were there. It was a great time. Oh, by the way, thank you, Star Wars fans. Good job. The applause, the ovation you gave Kelly Marie Tran.
Yes.
Yay, Star Wars fans. Thank you very much for that because, if you don't know, she's had a hard time on social media. Some trolls were attacking her out there and whether you liked her character as Rose or whether you didn't, she doesn't deserve that kind of abuse. And it was great to see Star Wars fans cheer her on and give her such support.
Right. And you could tell it really touched her, that it really meant a lot. We've talked about that in the past, that Star Wars fans are really great, and there are a few squeaky wheels that kind of give it a bad rap, but it was wonderful to see the entire audience. Like you said, she was the only one. I'm getting emotional. But I'm spending way too much time with you, honey.
I know. It's catching.
It's
catching.
But no, just, no one else got
By the way,
when
that first happened, I immediately started bawling. I was so happy for her.
But yeah, so, it was, great to see that they made the effort. They took the time to really show their appreciation for her as a person that, and like I said, she was the only one that got a standing ovation. So they really wanted to show the love.
Yeah, really great. I really appreciate it. It was a great panel. You can find it, by the way. It's still out there. If you go look up the Star Wars show on YouTube or whatever, they have the whole panel. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out. Really cool. The trailer, so much to unpack there. So many things, and I think that our good friend Rob LeBerry, who is actually, if you go and subscribe to the Jedi Temple Archives podcast, he's been going over the daily news from Star Wars Celebration, so you can check it out there. I think on Monday night he was telling me he's going to do a complete recap and kind of going over, nitpicking the trailer, going over, looking in depth into the trailer. So that might be a lot of fun to listen to if you're into this trailer at all. I know it had a great response. People were cheering, people were crying. It was really exciting, and boy, Palpatine there, or at least the voice of Palpatine. Wow. And then I'm gonna give it a little spoiler here for if you didn't see the panel. One interesting thing that happened when they rolled the trailer and everybody got to see it, and then the trailer stops, and out there walks Ian McDiarmid. Right. And if you don't know who Ian McDiarmid is, he was Emperor Palpatine, Darth Sidious. He was Palpatine. He was the Emperor. He comes out, and you can just tell and that was the other standing ovation was for him when he comes out, because people were so excited. And then he just, after a quick laugh, he just drops this on everybody.
Roll it again.
So good. Talk about chills again. And they rolled the trailer again. It was so good. I mean, you can check it out for yourself if you actually just go and find the panel. And if you're like me, you just couldn't stay away from it. And you probably watched the panel a couple times. But it was so good. I just played that piece like I was sitting at home or at work, and I just played that sound piece over and over and over again because it was so cool. Anyway, really fun stuff. Really great. And what a wonderful way to really kick off. I mean, I know Star Wars Celebration started on Thursday, but that really kicked off Star Wars Celebration on Friday morning.
It sure did, and we got some confirmations of some things too, like that it is kind of wrapping up the Skywalker saga.
Yeah, and what JJ said is that this film is going to finally get the main characters all back together, because they were kind of separated in many different parts of The Last Jedi, kind of similar to what they were in Empire Strikes Back, when a lot of the characters were Luke's here with R2, Leia and Han are over here,
right.
And they're dealing with this stuff over at Bespin and everything. It's kind of similar in some ways with what they were doing in The Last Jedi. They're going to be back all together, and they're going to go on one giant adventure together. So that's interesting to see. Also, he mentioned, and we already knew that Carrie Fisher was going to reprise her role as Leia, even though she's passed away long before this film started shooting, but that he was able to find footage that was not used within The Force Awakens, probably some from The Last Jedi too, I would imagine, that he was able to write the story around it. And so it was really a cool thing to say, is like, even though she wasn't there, it was like she was there every time we were editing the films and everything. It was like she was there. And that was really kind of cool to hear.
It was also fun to hear that they are going to give some backstory to answer questions that people have been thinking about through the last couple of episodes. That's exciting.
It's exciting. It's all exciting. This is exciting stuff. So a little less exciting, unfortunately. I thought it would be more exciting, but it really wasn't as exciting as I expected it to be, was the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge panel, which happened yesterday on Saturday. It didn't really get as much new stuff. I guess if you haven't been like totally scouring the internet and soaking up every little thing about Galaxy's Edge, maybe it was new to you. But we didn't get a lot of new stuff out of that panel, really. I mean, there's a few things. One was that there's going to be some Star Wars specific Coca-Cola products with interesting packaging, and they're going to be they're going to be written in Arabic on there, which is Star Wars language, if you don't know. That was kind of interesting, but whatever, it's marketing. Didn't get that much. What was cool to see was the Play Disney app functions that were displayed there. We're not going to get into that now because Michelle's going to get into that a little bit later on. So, but you want to listen to that for sure. We got to hear some of the Oga's Cantina music from DJ Rex.
That was awesome.
It was really fun stuff. We got to hear, and one I love that one was compared to Hamilton. It's the droid's version of Hamilton was compared it to, which. Anytime you mention Hamilton, I'm thrilled. And then we got to hear a little bit of John Williams' Galaxy's Edge score played there as well, and that was kind of cool. That was a cool experience. So that was about the most exciting stuff out. We did see some new pictures. Oh, one other thing that came out of it is that we found out that when you exit Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, when you exit through the corridor, depending on how you do on the attraction. Now, we already knew that it was going to how you did on the attraction. Did you bang up the ship? Did you, do the mission successfully? What happened was going to affect you as you're through the park. People will respond to you in different ways somewhat if you wanted that to be the case as you walk through the park. But now we found out that it's going to affect you right as you walk into the corridor. Like if you banged up the ship and everything, the corridor is going to be like sparks flying and it's going to be all banged up.
Isn't that awesome?
Or if you did, just a great job, it's going to be immaculate, untouched and everything. I don't know how they're going to do that, but that's amazing.
It is. That's exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, the technology that they're using in this park is just phenomenal. Yeah. And, speaking of the DJ.
Yeah, DJ Rex.
One of the things we noticed yesterday when we were at Disneyland and we went on Star Tours is that DJ Rex is no longer at Star Tours because he's got a new gig that he's working on.
Right. So if you know the queue at Star Tours, if you go and look, there's a bend you make, and then right there on your right will be Rex. And he was Captain Rex, of course, before in the original version of Star Tours. And he's pretty much there just dormant. But every once in a while he'll like, and make a little noise and, and say some words or whatever. But didn't do much. But we noticed as we were going around, and I don't know how long this has been the case. It may have been for a while. We just never noticed it before. But we noticed just this last trip through Star Tours that Rex is gone. Yep. He is now home in Oga's Cantina, getting ready to spin the tracks.
Right?
For all the soon-to-be people are out there. 6 weeks. What is it? 6 weeks? I can't believe it's so close.
I know.
So exciting. That's just so cool. So, yeah. Interesting stuff. So that was the Galaxy's Edge panel that happened on Saturday. Just this morning before we got here, we got to check out the panel for The Mandalorian. Oh my God.
I know.
Is so cool looking. So this panel had Jon Favreau, who you know from many films. He did Iron Man. You see him in Iron Man. He also directed Iron Man. He's also did The Jungle Book. He's currently doing the Lion King. He mentioned that he's going back and forth from studios to do The Mandalorian and do The Lion King, which is interesting to me. Dave Filoni, who mostly has been known for Disney animation at this point, but this will be the first time he's directing a lot of the episodes for The Mandalorian, so he was there as well, and he's also creative consultant on this. And then 3 of the stars, Pedro Pascal, who is going to play The Mandalorian, Gina Carano, and Carl Weathers, who, if you don't know if that name rings a bell with you, think of Apollo Creed, the original Apollo Creed. That's right. Carl Weathers. And he's been in other roles too, of course, but that's probably where you know him the best. He even did a little Apollo Creed thing when he came out on stage. I want you. It was pretty funny. But it was a really cool panel. They had some interesting stuff that they went through. They did show a little film to the audience there, not to the people that are streaming like us, that showed some video from the Mandalorian. We happened to be able to find a little leaked cover. I don't think we got the whole thing, but we got about 40 seconds of it. Wow.
It looks great,
right?
Wow.
It looks great. I didn't want to retweet it because, they didn't want to keep it private, but that didn't mean I didn't want to see it. So I did see it. One thing I'll say about this thing, from the photos too, just from the photos you saw, if you watch this panel or if you go back again, another panel you can find on YouTube if you want to look at it. It looks gritty. It looks rough. It looks like Star Wars has been a Western many times. Mm-hmm. This really looks like a Western. They compared it to like some of the Clint Eastwood spaghetti Western type feel to whatever. But if you saw this footage, you know how they've always said that Star Wars, George always would say Star Wars is kind of for, like 11-year-old boys mostly. This is not, from this footage, now I don't know when we actually watch it what it's going to be like. This is adult Star Wars. I mean, this is like for Game of Thrones fans type Star Wars. Mm-hmm. It looks like it's for a different grouping. You may want to watch this before you watch it with your kids, because this looked a little more rough, a little more edgy, a little...
kind of intense at times.
Definitely check it out first. And again, I just saw this footage, 40 seconds worth of footage, and I'm judging it completely from that. But it was really, really intense, but it looked really, really cool, and I'm excited for it.
Absolutely, it did. And it was fun watching the panel and seeing all these stars really understand and appreciate what gem they have now in their life, that they're a part of something that is so amazing and so big, and you could just tell they were humbled by it.
I love that. Pedro Pascal came on the panel, and they were asking about it, and he's like, so I got a note, from my agent or whatever it was that, hey, come on down. We've got this new Star Wars movie or show coming out that we want you to check out. And so he's like, oh, he's all excited. Yeah. So what am I going to play? Am I going to play an alien? Am I going to play a droid? I'm excited. And they're like, you're going to be the Mandalorian. And it's like, wouldn't that be you two? He was so excited. And he's like, all right, what do I need to go to this part? What do I need to watch? What do I need to see? How can I get this rolled down? It's really cool. They all seem very excited to be in this show. Mm-hmm. I'm excited for it. I can't wait to see the outcome of it. Everything, the pictures of it that we were actually able to see fully during this, they look great. The video footage that you may be able to find out there, I don't know. But that looked amazing as well from what we saw. I know that the crowd that saw the whole thing were roaring with a standing ovation after the footage. They were excited. And these are Star Wars fans, so they were thrilled by it. So that's cool.
They confirmed that he is a bounty hunter in it. He plays a bounty hunter.
I don't know, is he a bounty hunter or is he just kind of a, I can't think of the title for it, mercenary. He's kind of more of a mercenary.
I thought they used the term that he was a bounty hunter.
They may have. I may have just not... I may have zoned out at that part because I tend to do that from time to time, sometimes during the show here, as you just saw when I couldn't think of mercenary.
You didn't have to point it out to us, honey.
I know. What? Squirrel? Anyway, looks cool. I also like that they showed a little thing that they were so excited about this, that there's a new ship. You get to see a little bit of the making of this new ship that apparently is going to be the Mandalorian's ship. And they liked it so much they made a smaller model, because they back in the old days, like they used to do when the original trilogy went out. A lot of their filming of space scenes were used with models and motion cameras that would, they would zoom by, essentially. And they did that for this. This is going to be so fun. We're going old school with it. We're going to do some of that stuff. But they don't do that anymore at Lucasfilm. That's not what they do. So they had to create all this new stuff. They had to make. I mean, they still make models, yes, but that usually it's more just for kind of mock-up and ideas in general, and sometimes for use on the sets themselves. But so they made this ship model, and they built a new camera that they can motion by it, and they showed them doing this and filming it, and it looked so cool and so old school. I just loved it so much.
Yeah, it does seem like they're going back for all the projects that they're working on, even for the film, episode 9, that they are going back to some more basic techniques of how they're doing filming, and that's fun to watch too. I think they're realizing, the fun part of that, and maybe some of the reality or the challenges that they get by building these things. It's just really fun to watch, really amazing. I feel like I'm saying that every 2 seconds.
Because it is. Everything is really fun to watch and really amazing. I mean, one of those things. Speaking of that, and I need to go back to the Galaxy's Edge panel, because there was one other thing that was really amazing that I forgot to mention in there, is that we got to see some of the audio animatronic Hondo Ohnaka.
Oh, that's right.
For Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. Holy cow. That was, I've seen a little piece of it moving, but I haven't really seen a large segment of it actually happening and everything. So realistic. It's like Hondo Ohnaka's there. It's just so good. And Jim Cummings, we knew that he was going to voice him, but
isn't that great?
He's back. If you don't know, he was the voice of Hondo Ohnaka in the various shows on Clone Wars and Rebels, whether he's been in. He's back voicing it, but and go find the clip of it somewhere if you don't want to go watch the whole panel, because it is the most amazing audio animatronic I think I've ever seen in my life, and that's even from from Navi River.
Over in Pandora.
Yeah, I can't think of her name right at this moment, so forgive me for forgetting her name at this moment. But that's an amazing audio animatronic. Right. This one, to me, beat that one. It is unbelievable to look at.
I agree with you.
So good. It looked like Hondo is right there in front of you, telling you the details of what's going on. It's really cool. A couple other things that have happened so far. We've seen trailers and some talk about couple of the new video games that are coming out for Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which looks like a really cool video game. Looking forward to playing that. The VR video game, Vader Immortal. That looks really cool too. I don't think I would ever do a VR game, but that one has me interested in doing VR for once, because it looks really, really fascinating. One other thing that wasn't really part of a panel, but they have a Star Wars show live set there where it's kind of a stage, and they bring out various celebrities and different people involved that write some of the books, and people that are there, some of the main people that are there for Star Wars Celebration. Well, yesterday on Saturday, they brought Ahmed Best on to the stage. And if you don't know who Ahmed Best is, Ahmed Best played Jar Jar Binks through all the Star Wars prequels, okay? And again, I'm going to give a real good shout out to Star Wars fans out there, because Ahmed Best was, because of, whatever you think of Jar Jar Binks, people criticized him so much and gave him such a hard time that he contemplated suicide at one point. Right. To feel so welcome, to come back and willing to come back after all that vile that was spit his way for so long. And then the Star Wars fans out there gave him just such a great meeting and round of applause. And it was just heartwarming to see people approach him in that way.
Sure. And it was also interesting, the story that he shared, that George Lucas kind of early on tried to, give him that forethought that, hey, kids that are seeing it now, they know Jar Jar Binks, they like him. And as time goes on, that negativity from people who were more old school.
A little more cynicism from the older, from the people who like the original trilogy or whatever.
Will subside. And so, even though he knew that, it's still something that he experienced that was such a challenging and difficult time of his life. And you're right, the fans there really, really took the time and energy to show that they really loved him. And that was great to see. Yeah.
It was, again, Star Wars fans, good job.
Yay.
Good job. Proud of you. You guys are wonderful. You look like you're having a fantastic time out there at Star Wars Celebration. Tatooine and Sons, I've seen all your pictures from out there. Another one of our favorite podcasts. Yep. They're out there. They're having a great time. I'm so jealous of all of you. We're going to try and do it whenever the next one is. I think it's going to be 2021. I'm hoping it's going to be in Orlando or Anaheim, so it's a little bit more easy for us to get to than Chicago, but you guys are having a blast. It looks like everybody's having fun and total jealousy here, but we love seeing all the footage that you guys are providing for us. Absolutely. So that's it for our Disney stories of the week. There's plenty of others out there, but I just can't get to it all because we're already at about an hour and a half for this show. And I knew if I get to other Disney stories as well, I'm going to be pushing 2 hours and I just don't want to do that. So plenty of other stuff we could have talked about, but we're not going to do it this week. We may get to it in the future, but let's wrap up the show with, as we always do, with our vacation tips. We always have some sort of tip that helps you on your next vacation, whether it be going to the parks, whether it be Disney Cruise Line, Run Disney, if you want to see films, whatever, some of the movies, we try and give you some sort of tip to leave your week and get you better prepared for some of these fun stuff that you have ahead of you. And we always start with Michelle because, she's beautiful, fantastic, wonderful, and she just has great tips. I mean, really, you don't want to wait around for my tip, but you want to definitely listen to Michelle's tip because her tip is always the best. So let's just get right to it. Here is Michelle's tip of the week.
Oh, you're too sweet. So my tip is actually an easy one for you folks. If you haven't done so yet, download the Play Disney Parks app. They are continuing to add new and interactive gems to this app. If you've used it, or you may already know that, there's trivia games, you can listen to music of the parks. Just even a couple months ago for Disneyland Resort, they added a little new prize with Esmeralda, the fortune teller at the Penny Arcade shop. Using the app, she will grant you an extra free wish instead of needing a quarter. And it also keeps track of where you are in that adventure. And for Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, you'll really want to have this app because they showed a lot of the great new things that it's going to be doing. For example, it's going to have interactive games that come to life when you scan certain codes throughout the land. It can be used as your own personal translator. There's going to be a lot of different fun things that even just when it first opens and that they're going to continue to expand on. So if you have not downloaded that app, plan to do that. And the other little part of the tip is when you're at the parks, make sure your mobile device is fully charged.
Yes.
Because the app does use a lot of energy, but it's going to be well worth it when you go to the parks, especially Star Wars Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah, have a backup charger, one of those portable chargers for whatever you have to make sure your phone, because you are, especially when Galaxy's Edge. When we saw this, this was part of the panel we were just talking about, the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge panel, was the different things you're going to be able to do. You're going to be able to hack different radio signals going throughout the park. You're going to be able to look into crates essentially to find out what's in there. You're going to be able to, what they told us, you're going to be able to do your own Star Wars story within there. You can decide on the Resistance, you can decide on the First Order, or you can be kind of a mercenary when you're there. And the way there are going to be different games that go on throughout the day that we can access right through this app. And, and also when you decide which side you're on, I believe that some of the responses from some of the characters within the park are going to be different. If you are on the side of the First Order and you run into a stormtrooper, they're probably going to be a little more friendly to you than if, say, you're on the side of the Resistance and vice versa. So really interesting stuff. And, just the more I hear about Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, the more I think that I could have an amazing time going into that area of Disney, into that world of Star Wars, and never ride either of the attractions once
Right.
they're open. I mean, I want to ride those attractions, but I could totally just go in there and have a great time without even doing that.
Sure. I mean, like if you've done the Phineas and Ferb adventure at Epcot Center, or the various different things similar to that at Magic Kingdom, this app is going to be that and more, so it will be reacting to things. It will give you information. So like you're saying, yes, there's going to be the great attractions to go in there, but there's also going to be fun that you can have as part of this universe, part of this world that they're letting you actually enter.
And by the way, we are going to be there on the first weekend. That's also going to be our anniversary episode. So our anniversary episode, we will have just come back from Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland, and we will be able to tell you what we found out about it. We're probably just going to be here just crying. At least I am. I mean, by the way, there's another thing I thought was that Josh Gad, who hosted the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge panel, said that he did get to go in there. They did a funny bit of not letting him in to go see it and everything. It was kind of funny. But the thing is that he did get to go see it, and he's like, yes, I literally stood in front of the Millennium Falcon and wept. And I know that I will do the same thing when I get in there because it's so exciting. And so be sure and be with us. We're just a few episodes away from that when we get to our anniversary episode, and that will be... We'll be telling you what our experience was with Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Probably no spoilers, but definitely spoilers. So just be prepared for that. But
and that's if we make it back. I mean, if we find a way to hide in a crate.
Or if we're going to stow away, in some of the smugglers' bins in the Millennium Falcon, we'll be ready to go. So. Michelle's tip of the week, always a great tip.
Oh.
Here is my little tip, and I actually may have been, I can't remember if I was stealing this from Michelle at one point because she may have done this tip at some point, but it's kind of something that we're kind of working on right now that kind of made me think about this, and which also has to deal with Walt Disney World Resort, which is something which is our main topic of the day today, and that is the fact, like, if you are going to stay at the Walt Disney World Resort, there's another way to save a little bit of money, and it's really kind of an easy way to do this, and that is by having groceries delivered to your room. Again, I think Michelle did this at one point, but I'm going to go back over it again because maybe you didn't hear that episode. So, most of the Walt Disney World Resort hotels have at least a mini fridge. Some even have full fridges or kitchens, just depending on where you're staying at. So you can cut some of your costs when you're dining out there by, like, just saying having a few things there for snacks or lunches or breakfast or whatever the case may be. So let's just say for breakfast, even if you have a mini fridge, you probably have some room for some cereal and some milk, and some fruit. It's something that can kind of, so you're not having to go out to somewhere in your resort to go find breakfast every day or whatever. It's all, people can be getting ready. People can be eating breakfast at the same time. It can help move things along. You can have sandwich stuff in there, whether it's peanut butter and jelly or sandwich meats, cheeses, whatever, bread. So you can bring along some sandwiches to when you're at the park or whatever, or if you just want to come back and have a quick snack, a quick meal, you can have that there. I'm just talking about things that are easy to do with a mini fridge, okay? Like now, another thing is that, my big thing, what's my big thing? Hydration. Hydrate. You can have bottles of water, big packages of bottles of water or big bottles of water delivered right to your room and have that there ready for you to go to the parks. So you don't, yes, there is water to be found in the parks, but this is another way to have it easy access for you and access for you when you're back in your room. Any other favorite drinks, whether it be soda, juices, whatever the case may be, they can all be delivered to your room. If you like a little alcohol in your room, if you're an adult that likes to unwind in the night with a glass of wine or a beer or whatever, that can be delivered as well from certain locations. Of course, some of this stuff can be bought in small amounts in some of the stores, especially if you're staying in a resort that has a vacation club there. They will sell a little bit more at some of their stores. But you have much more access through some of these companies that will deliver these groceries right to your resort. I'm not going to give you the names of those because they don't sponsor us. If they want to sponsor us, I'm happy to give them the names, but they don't. But they're easy to find out there. If you want to contact us directly, I could tell you which one we use, and we're going to use it for this trip. As a matter of fact, we're going to be staying someplace with a mostly full kitchen. So we're going to be able to do breakfasts and some dinners in at the campsites, at the cabins. So that's one way to save some money, and then we'll go and do lunches a lot of times at the various resorts. at the various parks and the resorts. So if you have a kitchen or a kitchenette, if you are staying in one of the DVC villas or the studio suites, you can even get more stuff in there. You can do much more meal planning. So just a way that, you can curb some of that feeling like you have to go and dine at the parks for every meal, or at your resort for every meal at some restaurant or the food court or wherever the case may be. Just kind of ways to cut into that cost and give you some more options on ways to even, get ready quicker by, one person's taking a shower, another person's eating cereal or whatever, and just getting out easier.
I mean, that is a real convenience as well as a cost saver. And even when we stayed at the Value Resort, one of the beds was a Murphy bed that went up, and then it became a table.
Right.
Little table. So yes, it does make it more convenient, whether you're talking, kids or even adults who are kind of slow in the morning, get them going with a little bit of breakfast, plus the comfort to know, like, okay, I don't have to rush and get dressed just to go sit someplace at a restaurant to eat breakfast. I can just be doing this as I'm getting ready or as the kids are getting ready. So it is definitely a cost saver for some meals as well as convenience. Or like if you've eaten dinner at the parks and you're coming back late at the end of the day and you just feel like, I just need a little something, to not feel like you have to go to a food court or order room service that could be very costly.
It also gives you the ability to have some more healthy options if you like to have something a little healthier around. I mean, the park food is great, but some of it, there are healthy options in the park as well. But, you tend to go to the churro, or you tend to go to the ice cream, or you tend to go to whatever, it may be. This gives you the chance also when you're back in the room to, have a little fruit or have something that's a little bit healthier for you. So where you can feel like when you want to indulge more, it's not as much as like, that's all I'm doing is eating fattening food throughout the whole thing, or unhealthy food throughout this whole thing.
Or that you can, like you can get apple slices in little packets that you can then bring into the parks too, that if you just want a little something between meals at the parks, you don't feel like you have to buy something just expensive. Just
more options. Good. So again,
good tip.
Well, thank you. And again, I think I stole that from you, but yes, it's still, I'm going to take credit for it today for my tip.
There you go.
But again, could you blame me for stealing Michelle's tips? She always has the best tips. So how could I not steal one every once in a while just because my tips aren't as good? So.
No, not true, but that's funny.
That's it for this week. Next week, we're continuing our Star Wars Remembered series as we continue the countdown to Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. We now know it, as you heard earlier. Next week, we'll be taking a look back at Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Rob LeBerry, our good friend from the Jedi Temple Archives podcast, will be joining us again to talk about that episode next week. It's going to be a lot of fun to look back at one of the prequels.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, a lot of good times.
Like you said, as we're counting down and, all this new Star Wars news that came out this week is just kind of getting us in the mood to really delve more into Star Wars.
We're always in that mood, but yes, definitely that will be a good reason to. So thank you for following us. You want to find us on social media, you ever want to contact us to ask us questions, give us a tip, whatever you want, just say hi. We're happy to have you do that. We're on Twitter at Hyperion Podcast. We're on Facebook and Instagram at Hyperion Adventures Podcast. And you can always email us at HyperionAdventurespodcast@gmail.com.
Right. And please take time to tell a friend about our podcast. We really would appreciate that. And if you get a chance to give us some feedback and some rating, that would also be well appreciated.
A review would be fantastic,
yes.
But anything you want to give us, really, really appreciated. We also have a website, by the way, HyperionAdventurespodcast.com, and you can subscribe to us. Again, there'll be some issues going for the next couple of weeks, but we're going to get this all hammered out soon. But hopefully it goes as smoothly as possible, and you hardly know, except for me talking about it because it's on my mind all the time, that something is going on. But you can still subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, I think. Hopefully that's working out for us. And Stitcher. We'll get that worked out one way or the other. But I know iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher are okay. If there's another place that you get our podcast and for some reason you're not getting the new episodes, please let us know. We need to get that figured out as soon as possible. And again, rating, review, really appreciate it. But mostly just tell a friend about us. We really appreciate that so very, very much.
Sure do.
Yes. So thank you again for listening to the Hyperion Adventures podcast. We look forward to sharing some time with you again next week. But until that time, I'm Tom,
I'm Michelle.
and we hope that you have a magical week.